Welcome back. If it is joining us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. The Independent National Electoral Commission announces winners for by-elections into the National Assembly for Bauchi, Katsina and Kogi, as well as the State Assembly in Cross River State. The People's Democratic Party alleges plot to arrest Senate President Bukola Saraki and his deputy Ike Ekweremadu, just as the All Progressives Congress accuses the PDP of monumental corruption. The Nigeria police loses 4 of its men to gunmen in Kaduna, but foil an attack by armed men in Zamfara State. And the United States Space Agency, NASA, launches its mission to send satellite closer to the sun than ever before. ChannelsTV.com has more information for you, and on youtube.com/channels where you can watch our videos. You can also watch us on your mobile device via your browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. Besides giving you access to news updates on the go, the Channels TV and Channels 24 app has an eyewitness feature that you can use to share pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions. Let's take a look at some of the pictures you sent into our portal. We begin with this one. It's from Osapa, London, at the Lekki Peninsula area of Lagos, showing this 9-story building being demolished by the Lagos State Building Control Agency. According to the eyewitness reporter, the structure was brought down for building without approval and building more than 4 floors, which is allowed within the premises. Next is this image from Oworun-Shoki-Apapa Expressway showing the lineup of trucks and fuel tankers on the highway. Eyewitnesses raising concern over what happens when the mainland bridge is closed. It's called on the state and federal government to do more to remove the vehicles from the highways, as according to him, they make life difficult for other road users. Our final image is also from Oworun-Shoki-Apapa Expressway in Lagos. We see an accident scene involving a trailer and a car. Our eyewitness reporter says the collision happened just before the second Rainbow Junction, resulting in a long gridlock. Thanks for sending in those pictures, and know that you too can become an eyewitness reporter for Channels Television. Don't forget to send your pictures and location and contact so we can reach you when necessary. A new national carrier is set to debut in December 2018, 15 years after Nigeria Airways was rested. At the unveiling of the carrier, to be known as Nigeria Air in the United Kingdom, the Minister of State for Aviation, Hadi Sirika, said it will be privately run. In our next report, our aviation correspondent, Bukola Joe Ketumbi, looks at the prospects of the proposed carrier.
A flag carrier is a transportation company, such as an airline or shipping line, that is locally registered in a given sovereign state, enjoys preferential rights or privileges accorded by the government for international operations, and can also be called a national carrier. Just recently, Nigeria unveiled its new national carrier at the Farnborough Air Show in the United Kingdom. 15 years after the defunct national carrier, Nigeria Airways went down. It comes with a takeoff cost of about $308.8 million and is expected to start operations in December 2018.
Try to create a new national carrier that will be typical and basically and within the national spirit, private sector and driven through a PPP arrangement.
Airline experts remain divided over the prospects of the project.
It's been that we will love to see a national carrier because it will, if implemented well, it will create jobs. It will open up the aviation industry. There will be a lot of development in the infrastructure of the aviation industry.
But there are many questions that still need to be answered in terms of the management, the funding, the fleet.
But for potential passengers, it's a welcome development that comes with cautious optimism.
If they really mean to come back and be patronized, they have to identify where they went wrong in the first place and attend to such areas.
If they're not serious, it will be off. So if they will succeed, if federal government will succeed, it is still left with the federal government.
With the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria due owners of Arik Air and Aero contractors, many industry players are waiting to see whether the national carrier will be fused into these companies, as the federal government cannot own 3 separate airlines. Bukola Joe Oketumbi, Channels Television News.
Have here in the studio Channels TV's data analyst Babajide Ogusowo to discuss the opportunities in the air transport sector. Babajide, always a pleasure having you here. There are several recommendations on the most effective path to develop the air transport sector in Africa, especially in Nigeria. How large and sustainable is this business in the country?
Again, it depends on how we want to look at this industry. And there are several ways we could look at this, because this has been happening for over 6 decades now. So there are 3 interesting facts I want to share about the Nigerian aviation industry. And we'll get back to this to see if the new Nigerian airplanes will be this beautiful. The first is the size of the domestic air transport industry. Last year, the evidence shows that 3.9 million passengers traveled on the domestic route. That's international, sorry, that's within all the local airports, arrivals and departures. There's some good news in that for Lagos State. 72% of all domestic air flights land in Lagos. The bad news is 3.9 million passengers on the domestic route is the lowest in 5 years. Now let's look at the international route. That also has huge numbers. 9.4 million for the domestic route, 3.9 million for the international route. Again, most of the flights on the international route land in 2 airports, Lagos and Abuja. The challenge again is that figure is the lowest in 5 years. And so if we look at the challenges in the domestic airspace and the international airspace, it does seem to provide the need for Nigerian air, especially if you consider that the air transport sector in the nation today is less than 1% of GDP, growing at less than 2% per annum.
So is this fertile ground for new investors?
Perhaps yes, but again, it depends on the kind of returns investors want. So let's listen to what the International Civil Aviation Authority say about the return of invested capital in the airline industry. From their own research, they say in the last 5 years, return on invested capital has been less than 10%. And so if you are an investor, Amarachi, will you invest in a business that possibly wouldn't give you more than 10%, or will you buy government bonds that could give you more than 10%? That is the major challenge Nigerian air will face. And investors will look at alternatives to investing in Nigerian air.
If this is the situation, how have other airlines like Ethiopia and British Airways survived for decades?
Again, one of the things we need to understand about the aviation industry is the barriers to exit are high. And so even though you might not be performing so well as an airline, it's hard to sell all your airplanes. So you keep looking for new ways and new partnerships to stay in the business. And that is one thing Ethiopian Airlines have done well. Keep looking for new profitable routes and creating partnerships. For British Airways, here's what they've done. They've invested so much money in new equipment and softwares. Last year alone, they invested the equivalent of 270 billion naira only on equipment. So the airline industry, highly capital intensive. So the question is, what will be the competitive advantage for Nigerian air? And I have one suggestion. I think it should be timing. Here's what I mean. It will be easier for President Buhari to decamp to an opposition party than for you to find a domestic airline in Nigeria that will leave at the scheduled time. And so we need to take timing more seriously. It is very impossible to find a domestic airline that would leave at the time he said it would leave. And so if we're able to compete, one, based on timing, we're able to compete based on looking at efficient routes, and we're able to look at what really is our comparative advantage in this industry, then Nigerian Air can succeed. But again, there has to be clarity. Is the investment in Nigerian Air about profit? Is it about pride? Or is it personal? That is what we need to find out.
Is that what the future looks like for Nigeria's aviation sector?
Indeed, the future of aviation is not aviation. The future of aviation is communication technology. And so there are several people that, based on the mobile phones, don't need to travel anymore. And so, yes, we're looking at when our dear Nigerian Air will take off, but we also should keep an eye on what is happening in the communication technology space. And in the final analysis, Amarachi, what will you do if you were on an airplane and there was a fire outbreak? Where will you come out from?
Is it what will I do? Where will I come out from? Which is the one?
Where will you come out from?
I come out from the exit, of course. The emergency exit. That's where I would come out from. I would say prayer first. That's what I'd say.
But I'll also tell you that if you're in a plane and there's a fire outbreak, you're going to come out on the news at 10.
Well, I will tell the story, is what I always say. I will tell my own story. Thanks a lot, Babajide, for stopping by.
The pleasure is all mine.
On the news at 10. In the meantime, the new initiative called the Trader Money will offer loans ranging from 15,000 naira to 50,000 naira to at least 30,000 beneficiaries. In each state, however, states with larger populations such as Lagos and Kano are expected to get more than 30,000 naira, I beg your pardon, in loans, believe. The scheme is planned to commence in Lagos and Kano, to be followed by Abia, and will eventually cover other parts of the country by the end of the year. According to the federal government, about 500,000 potential beneficiaries have so far been enumerated across the country, especially in the pilot states. The goal, according to the federal government, is to take financial inclusions down to the grassroots, particularly at the bottom of the ladder. Now, 85 medical students who once thought their dream of becoming medical doctors would never come true since they were told the university wasn't licensed to teach medicine are now celebrated medical doctors. The students were given a state scholarship to complete their education in Ukraine. The Osun State Governor, Rauf Aregbesola, while welcoming them at Government House, urged them to give what they have learned back to society.
It's a joyous day for these young graduates who are inducted as medical doctors. In 2012, 85 of these young doctors gained a state scholarship to complete their medical program in a Ukrainian university after their inability to complete their education at the Osun State University due to unlicensed status.
In fact, I count myself very, very privileged to actually be one of those sponsored by the government to the University of Karazin in Ukraine. It's actually been a very, very pleasant experience, as I was able to acquire not just the medical education, but also acquire a lot of skills and also life skills that can help me survive in the real world.
Kemi graduated as the best in her school. Her message is that of hard work and diligence.
Actually, in Ukraine, we actually have to study hard also, compared in just like Nigeria also. But in Ukraine, we have facilities like there's internet to study, and you don't have problem with internet, and there's always light 24/7 compared to Nigeria. Medical school in Nigeria is also very good. Like it stresses you, you read hard. But Ukraine too, you have to read hard because you have lots of materials to prepare for a class. So you have to read hard to make sure you meet up for the day's class.
Osun was not accredited by the Medical Council of Nigeria for clinical studies. So we had to look for institutions to attach these students. We look for institutions inward, but we discovered that no university could accommodate them. So we had to look outward. It was at that point that these students were sent out.
The Osun State Governor, Rauf Aregbesola, advises the students to in turn give the knowledge they have learned back to the society.
Whoever, therefore, can sit back to identify a need and create opportunity out of it can never be poor.
The Osun State government has welcomed all 85 students back to the country, with the hope that the state will have a teaching hospital to enable other medical students complete their education without any delay.
The news at 10 returns. Palm wine tappers in Enugu State are looking for ways to maximize the use of the alcoholic beverage beyond the everyday consumption. That's our community report. Join us again.